and go.
Hello, welcome back, everybody.
Hey, David Cato.
Hey, Reinders Wiki.
We're David Cato and Reinders Wiki. Welcome to Therapy Code. I was going to say cluster.
We can call it whatever we want. This is our show and not yours.
Absolutely. Welcome to The Fox in the Hen House, a podcast about
Don't say
things.
fox.
Don't say fox. You ever think about foxes? Are you going to cut this out?
No. I'm happy saying don't say fox.
You should tell the people you cut out all of last episode because it was too awesome for you to handle.
I told people in person, but I did have to cut some of the last episode, but it's okay. Most of it was the technical difficulty we had where Ryan lost his internet, even though he said he didn't.
I don't lose my internet. I got the fancy boy internet. My internet is impeccable. My internet is clean, smooth.
Watch me rage bait Ryan saying he has shit internet.
How dare you? I take my internet very personally.
God.
My light's shiny.
It is. Yeah, fix it.
I can't.
You can spin your camera down or something.
No, it cuts off my head.
Lean back. Remember that old hip hop song, Lean Back? Lean Back.
Lean back. That's not that old, is it? What are we talking about today, David
Yeah, you
Cato?
told me. I think we talked about at the end of last time how to have hard conversations with clients, but we can talk about how to have hard conversations in general.
Whoa. Do we what I had remembered, which could be fun, is more like less even how to have hard conversations, but more like what is the role of the therapist in the residential setting? Isn't that kind of how that came up, at least? Like, should the therapist be involved in boundary setting? I thought that was kind of how we arrived at.
Oh, yeah, I totally forgot about all of that.
Yeah.
That may have been part that I had to cut out because of the technical difficulty.
I remembered something. Are you proud of me?
You did. I'm so proud of you.
Everybody write this day on your calendar. February 10th, big day.
Yeah. So, in the setting of when administration tells you to do something, I guess, right? Like,
I was even thinking, and I know that this has come up. Well, I probably come up in every residential setting I've worked in, which is like the expectation of, patient has broken a rule or a boundary. And a lot of times they'll say, well, the therapist will deal with it. And I don't know how I feel about that. I feel mixed about that, that expectation. Because I think in a lot of places that I've been in, and I've tried to move places away from this knee-jerk reaction, but it's like, yeah, the patient did something wrong, the resident did something wrong, the therapist needs to sit down with them and tell them what's up. And that seems to often be maybe an expectation from, like the tech team or the BHTs or the BHAs or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
I have a lot of opinions about this because I've been in both roles as a therapist, as the administrator, and then as a therapist again, and all in the residential setting, but also like clinically supervising folks that are not in the residential setting too. And, talking to my own client, having hard conversations with them. Like, it's really just when you have to be the heavy, it sucks and it's uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to it. Right. And so overall, it's like, yes, should the administrator tell the therapist to do it? Is it clinical or is it administrative? I think overall it's the big question. And so my guess is I think it can be both. I think sometimes it's appropriate to have administration there. I think sometimes administration should be doing it. And then I think sometimes the therapist should be doing it. For example, if the treatment team is not there and a conversation has to happen quickly, administration can have the conversation, which I know many a day when I was administrator on a weekend, the therapist wasn't present, I would be the one to have that difficult discussion, whatever that might be. But also, is it a way to challenge someone in their treatment as part of their treatment plan to keep them accountable to whatever it is we're looking at? Do you want to use a particular example with this one that comes to mind?
We can use some examples. I don't know. I think I am of mixed opinion about this. I think it can be a part of a appropriate therapeutic relationship. I also think sometimes it's a sign of an unhealthy culture if these things are being passed on to a therapist. And I don't know, the therapist, I think the therapist certainly can't undermine whatever boundaries being set, but I don't think that they're always the appropriate one to set the boundary. So making it a part of like an internal process is not a good idea. It shouldn't be an expectation that the therapist is the heavy, because sometimes that is good and conducive to where the therapist and patient are at, and sometimes it is so counterproductive that it destroys that working relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if, I mean, what if staff came to you and said, Johnny was vaping in the hallway today. Please talk to him and put together a behavior contract. Is that something you feel like you would do or want to do as a therapist?
No, because I think the person, something like that, if another staff sees it in the moment, that staff should confront it there, right? Hey, no vaping in the hallway. It happened today. Somebody vaped in the crossroads area, and I'm like, don't vape indoors, please. Like, and it's not even my patient. I'm like, please don't vape indoors. And simple as that, you know. But is that something that warrants like a contract that says, hey, you can't do, you did this one time because a staff member allegedly saw you, like, don't do it again, you know?
Yeah. What about what about something more serious? Like Johnny said, "Good morning, sweet cheeks," to a female resident. Will you talk to Johnny? Are you comfortable in that conversation? Doing the, hey, you can't, that could be construed as sexual harassment. This is why you can't do that. This is
Oh,
what would
yeah.
happen if you did it again.
Mhm.
As a
Yeah.
therapist, are you good with that?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's situational, right? Like, I'd be fine with it. Like, let's say, for example, you said it to a female staff member. Maybe that female staff member is not a therapist or not equipped to know how to have conversations like that. Then it can be clinical or administrative.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's not, in the perfect world, there's like a treatment team meeting for something like that so that they understand that there's representation. This is an administrative boundary that we're setting, but
Mhm.
your clinician is aware and here to both be supportive of you and your emotional health, but also here to echo that this is a real boundary that we need to set and isn't subject to negotiation.
What are you doing?
I was holding my hair. It was about to fall off my head. I'm hiding my forehead from the people.
I stopped listening because I noticed you were doing that for a while.
Nice. Nice. What about Johnny was rude to another staff person in the hallway. Will you follow up with them?
I think it depends. Like, what's going on for Johnny at the time? Like, did Johnny just hear his insurance denied? What was the content of the rude behavior? Because it's like one of those things. So it's like being in a residential treatment setting, there are oftentimes that certain staff that are not necessarily part of the direct treatment team will hear stuff and see stuff in the evening or overnight or early in the morning. And I've had this conversation in supervision multiple times, but then staff will send out emails saying, hey, this person is saying these things and doing these things in the evening. And then the staff talks to Johnny and says, hey, Johnny, I've been told you've been doing these things. Johnny's like, no, I'm not doing those things. Right. So there's like, but then we keep getting the emails and it's still happening. And then we get to say, okay, we're going to enter a behavioral agreement to say, hey, we're going to change this behavior. And Johnny says, hey, I'm not doing it. Well, we have enough reports that says you are. So this is what we're going to adhere to. Am I even following you? Am I on the right track?
I don't know. No, I don't know what the right track is. I'm trying to just think about it because I don't know the right answer. I know my training as a therapist was largely in more non-directive approaches. So my knee-jerk reaction to these kind of requests is that really compromises the therapeutic relationship in a sense because it hijacks a part of the session for the therapist to bring in a topic
Mhm.
and then direct, and to
I
be super directive for a part of the set, ultra directive, really. And so I don't like it for that reason.
I see
But
what
I explained that to somebody once, and they said, well, that's just not residential treatment. And they had, I don't know if I can explain their position, but they had a compelling argument, which is this is the nature of the community. This is the nature of
Mhm.
the beast in residential treatment. Part of the very feature of that treatment is that you are a part of a community that supports them 24/7 and is privy to and witnesses all of their behavior and
Mhm.
has the advantage of being able to address their behavior in real time,
Mhm.
whereas you don't get that at all in an outpatient setting.
I see what you're saying. And I think it's about like what came to mind for me is I had it and it's gone.
I think what bothers me is that a lot of times that request is the signal of an immature system in a
Mhm.
sense. Like if a staff member is saying somebody said something bad to me, can you please put them on a behavior contract? My questions are like, well, what did you say when they said it? What kind of
Mhm.
reaction did you have? Did you handle it well in the moment? Because it's not handled well in the moment if you said nothing and then somebody else comes in like your dad and is like, you can't do that to such and such a staff member. Like, I think that that's an unhealthy system. That doesn't mean that it's always bad for the therapist to be
Yeah,
involved, but I think that's part of my reactivity to it, which is like usually my response is like, well, what did you do? Why is the therapist responsible for this? And how can we empower you in your role to have felt capable to address this in the moment?
I see that. And I think the residential setting I've worked in has been so large that it's harder to be able to say, hey, here are the training needs. To be able to say, hey, if somebody said something to you, instead of kind of demanding that someone on the treatment team deal with it, then we can teach you how to be able to have those hard conversations or be able to say something back. I think one of the things that happens too is that they don't have the same level of rapport with certain people, and so it could come off as let's say a patient says something rude to a staff member, and then that staff member says something back to them, and then they get triggered because it's mom or it's dad, and they don't have the proper skills at that point to be able to discern that it's not a parent that's telling them what to do, or it's not an authority figure that they're in trouble for. They're just trying to help support them in behavior change, behavior modification, I guess, just by having conversation with them. Then it could be a trigger with someone they don't have much rapport with. And I
Mhm.
think that could be one of the problems that comes up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they might not have rapport, or just as you're talking, I was thinking like we really do a terrible job as a human race in a sense, like preparing people to navigate difficult situations.
Mm.
Like so many staff members or whatever people feel unequipped to deal with somebody when that person is being angry or disruptive. And I think a lot of therapists were like, "Oh, I love that." Like, you know, if I walk by somebody in the hall and they said, "Go F yourself," I'd be like, "Oh, tell me more," you know?
Mm.
Let's like dig into what just happened. Like
I
that like, like I would treat that very differently but I think a lot of people hear that and they're like, "Oh my God, what did you say?" Or "I'm so offended. How dare you?" Or
Mhm.
just, like they approach it with there's a reactivity to it, and we don't have a good way to train people who come into the field,
Mhm.
especially those that don't have this sort of training to think about how to approach those sorts of things well. All of like the certified de-escalation
Mhm.
trainings in the world don't touch on that simple task of like, hey, don't personalize anything.
Yeah.
And B, when somebody is pushing you away, don't fall into that trap. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's right. I think you're right on, like thinking about culture and talking about the culture of it. This was before I got into like being an associate director or clinical director. I was a program manager on Sundays, and I worked Sunday through Thursday. And so I was a program manager on site Sunday, and then it was other people like when I was first learning management. And I was driving into work one Sunday morning, and the nurse supervisor called me. And on Saturday and Sunday, like the clinical program manager person or program clinical lead, whatever you want to call them, and the nurse supervisor were the two like top people on campus those days, unless an administrator was on call or something, they came on site, right? So I was driving into work one Sunday morning, and the nurse supervisor called me, and she's amazing, but she called me and she's like, "Hey, we have these." I don't remember how many patients it was, but it was somewhere between like 6 and 8 patients, maybe more. They're like, "Hey, we have these patients in this conference room to meet with an administrator because they're upset because there's somebody in the community who is being inappropriate or whatever." It was kind of like it became like, so I don't even remember what the behavior was, but it was like probably something they were being sexually inappropriate, maybe saying things or something like that. And they're like, "We have all these people in this room waiting for you." And my gut reaction was, "No, you don't. I'm not meeting with a room full of people at once." I was like, "I'll meet with people one by one and find out what they have to report. And you can let them know that I'll do that when I get in and after the morning meetings." Like I'll meet with them one by one. And only one patient showed up that day to talk to me at all. None of the others did. So it was kind of like this mob mentality. And so I think culturally, if like a mob can kind of come forward and say, "Hey, we're upset about this thing," staff can be upset and say, "Oh, we don't know how to deal with this. Let's put it on the clinical person, the therapist type person who can help manage this behavior." That's what it felt like then. Again, this was, God, at this point was probably 7-ish years ago, maybe longer than that.
Hmm.
And
We
I think
talked last
it's a
time
culture.
about like how hard it is to be an administrator and then try to put on your therapy hat with
Mhm.
somebody who knows that you're an administrator. I mean, I
Yep.
think it's very
Yep.
difficult, and I kind of feel, I don't know, am I wrong to say that the opposite's also true? It's hard to be a therapist and then have to put on that administrator hat. It's hard to be a
Well,
therapist and continue, but then have to be the one to say, "Hey, by the way, this was wrong, and we're going to
mhm.
kick you out if it happens again."
Yeah, and just a little bit more of what we were talking about last week, which was that I've done that before, but to be both, because I can be a therapist and then the guy, oh, I remember one instance in particular, where I had to be both, and it was very uncomfortable, and it kind of disrupted some of our rapport. I mean, I
Right.
was able to repair the rapport that had been ruptured, but it did come up, and it sucks when you have to be that admin person. And I forgot something happened not recently, but sometime within the last year where oh, I remember what it was. I think I told you about this when it happened, but someone came to me for a therapy session, and I remember in my system, I put on my administrator hat that I was no longer wearing. Do you remember this? And I was like trying to help support them clinically by saying, "Hey, I hear you, but also we're not going to discharge this other person because you had a disagreement with them." Do you remember this? And this person just would not having it with me at all. But my whole thing is I was trying to support them, but at the same time, they had a mission, they had a goal that they wanted me to get this other person discharged. And I was like, I don't have the power to do that. And instead of supporting them and being with them in their stuff, I was kind of like administrator, like, "Well, there's nothing I can do about that other person." Right. Which is not what they wanted to hear. In fact, they said they wanted to hear me say that I was going to get them discharged, which I did tell them I couldn't say, which I'd say that as a clinician or an administrator. But it was just this weird kind of crossover that it kind of, I guess, activated the inner administrator in me where I was like, "We're not going to do anything and I'm here to help you." And they weren't having any of that. You remember that, right?
I do. Yeah, I feel like there's sort of, no, I just think it's not a good thing to rely on a therapist to serve that role in an organization. And I think that there's a million reasons why a lot of organizations do.
Mhm.
Either they don't have the training at some level, they are just a small organization without a lot of extra staff, or the therapy team is really well developed. I mean, I think that there's a lot of reasons why, but it just seems like it can really clash. Like, to me, the purpose of therapy in a residential setting or otherwise is like, we are here to collaborate on your mental health.
Mhm.
And that may involve difficult conversations about your behavior if that serves the purpose of helping you gain insight or awareness or response. If it serves in that purpose of helping you on your mental health.
Mhm.
But there's also plenty of times when those kind of conversations really don't serve that purpose and take the therapist out of the role or the dynamic that they're in,
Mhm.
or just really rupture the therapeutic alliance. I mean, I'm wondering though if that's, I feel like you could say, Ryan, that's just like the conflict avoidant person in you talking, but I don't feel like that's
Mm.
what is, I don't feel like this is my way of saying therapists should never be involved in conflict. I think it's therapists should be having hard conversations all the time, but
Mm.
in service of a different goal. The goal of therapy being, let me help you with your mental health, and the goal of treatment being similar, but also more of a, I don't know. I think I think a therapist can be a part of a lot of these conversations, but I don't
Mhm.
think that they should be expected to hold and wield the authority in every case.
Mhm. I think there are times when it's appropriate.
Yeah,
And I think there are
absolutely.
times when, like, I'll see an email from over the weekend, then I'll meet with someone and be like, "Hey, I heard a thing. Can you tell me more about what you were doing out with so and so in the field?" Or something like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I heard this really intense thing happen to you. Do you want to talk about your feelings around it, even though I have some other backstory to know that maybe they caused it?" And then try to be able to get them to share what, and that's all clinical, right? It's not me being the heavy and coming in and saying, "Hey, you did this thing." And I think
Right.
that's the difference is administration. The difference between being clinical or being, therapeutic and being administrative is the administration, the perception of administration is you did this thing, you're in the principal's office, but also there is skill that it takes even from an administrator to be able to have these hard conversations too, right?
That's
And
that's
so,
also true. It's
eh,
like, yeah, so many people
yeah.
are not well equipped to set a boundary
Hmm.
and
Well,
to
and I
do
talked to
so in a way
Robert.
that like really supports a person in their journey.
I've talked to Robert about it before, and I mean, he has hard conversations with people sometimes too, and not necessarily as a therapist, but he knows how to have those conversations, right? And so, it's like it depends on, like, if you put a brand new therapist in a leadership position and they have to have those hard conversations, that's probably going to be a little different,
Yeah,
right? I
absolutely.
think that also has to do with experience and skill level, and
Yeah, there's a time and a place, but I think I don't know. At Sierra, I really was kind of vicious about that with the therapist and protecting them and safeguarding them from. I
having
wanted all of the therapists there to feel like they could say, this is an appropriate conversation for me to have, or this isn't an appropriate
Mhm.
conversation for me to have. And sometimes they would say it's not appropriate and we would push back. And other times they would take it on and I'd be like, hey, wait a minute. Like,
Mhm.
that's a little too much for what's. So I feel
Well,
like that was something that we actually kind of, at least made some good progress on there. And now I'm at, a newer organization where I think, again, that's sort of the expectation is that the therapists will take it on. And that's why I've been thinking it over a lot, which is to say, like, I don't know, what is my stance on it? Can I elucidate my stance and can I
mhm.
explain why I believe what I believe? Because in this setting, clinical is not my direct responsibility.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to figure out how firm do I want to be on this vision? Do I
Mhm.
want to say this is up to you, you, and you? How strongly do I feel? I don't know. All these things.
Mhm. Yeah. Good
All
discussion.
these things.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what?
Chicken butt.
I played my first game of Pokemon tonight with my 6-year-old.
Which game?
The trading card game.
Oh.
The actual cards.
Oh.
I've never done that before.
That's awesome. I've also never played the Pokemon card game. Only the video games.
All right. I
No.
thought you might have because I
I
knew
played Magic.
I've never played
Yeah.
any of it.
I played Magic back in high school, but
I played Magic.
only briefly.
Don't tell anybody.
I mean,
Oh shit, we just told the whole world.
people will know.
Everyone listens. Tens of thousands of millions of people have just heard my deep, dirty secret.
Well, I remember, yeah, okay. I remember being bullied for liking magic.
Really?
And also, little factoid, my brother still has so many magic cards from the late 90s. And he doesn't play, but he has like a nice collection of them.
I
It
went
makes
to
me
an
feel
all boys high school, which I don't know. I might have expected. I thought it was great. And I didn't get bullied for anything as geeky as I was. So it was
well, you were
nice.
cool though. You were a cool guy.
I was, I was definitely not. I mean, obviously, this is cool, but in the grand scheme of things, I doubt that I was that cool. One time, a kid ate a couple magic cards.
Why?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like little pieces at a time, or just like the whole thing and chewed it?
No, he just took some and he ate them. I don't remember if it was mine or somebody else's. We were all pretty pissed at him.
I mean, was was he okay?
Who knows? Who
Oh,
knows?
well, probably
You ever
not.
wish you could? I never go to high school reunions or anything. Do you ever wish you could just be like, did any of these people actually like make it anywhere?
I have no desire to go to a high school reunion.
Yeah, me neither. But I would love to just have like a little one-line sentence of like, this is a summary of this person's life.
The only way I would ever go to a high school reunion, did you see Rome and Michelle's high school reunion?
No.
I would arrive via helicopter to my high school reunion.
Nice.
That would be the only way that I know that I would be guaranteed to be the most successful person there. That's when I would go.
What? Yeah. What would people from high school say about you? Where would they expect you to be? What would they think your one sentence explanation of life would be?
My what?
I was saying I wish I had a one sentence explanation of everybody's life. What would people from your high school think that yours would be?
It would take me that's philosophical and would take me a while to think of something like that, but it would not be kind. What I will say is I do have a lot of people because I don't know if why they think like, adding me on Facebook. I have a lot of people I went to high school with on my Facebook, right? And they also had the opportunity to see this. I don't know that they do see it or watch it, but if they do, they can hear this. But there are some people there, and it was kind of like a wake up call to be like, hey, they weren't actually as great as I thought they were growing up, um, but I think that's the whole illusion of bullying is that they teach you or they try to put you in a place where you're not, and then you have to spend part of your life climbing out of it. So I think, I was the stinky, smelly, poor kid, or no, stinky, fat, poor kid. And then gay. We just started adding the things, and then by the time they added gay, I was
Poor
like,
gay
"Fuck
kid."
this," and I dropped out of high school. Once they added that last one, I was like, "That's it, bye."
See you later.
But yeah, I mean, I think their sentence for me would probably be something like, I don't know, something about the stinky, fat, gay kid, poor kid won't make it anywhere. Something along those lines. And that voice is still there sometimes.
Sure.
Not stinky though, not poor, but still fat and gay.
Oh boy.
What would they say about you?
I don't know. I was thinking about that. I
Mhm.
mean, I was probably just weird. I think I was generally agreeable. I don't know. I certainly, I don't think I had much self-awareness back then to be able to know. And I imagine people would say the same thing. Like, we don't know where we don't know. He's kind of geeky. He's kind of funny. He's smart, but he's all over the place.
See, I didn't have funny tacked on me yet because I didn't find that until I started becoming a therapist and doing my own trauma work. That's when my comedy came out. That's when I knew I was funny because you channel trauma into hilarious energy. But no, I wasn't funny. I was geeky, but I was not funny.
I think my friends wouldn't be terribly surprised. I think they knew that I was like driven and was determined to make something of myself. But I'm just one, like the randos in the hallway. I don't know that they even knew me well enough to hazard a guess.
Yeah, thinking back, like my mom would dye her hair black, and I remember when she came to pick me up at school one day, some of the other kids started calling her a witch because she had dyed black hair. I mean,
Wow.
how do they know it was? I don't know how they knew it was dyed or not, but they calling her a witch because she had black hair, and it was like the things that kids come up with. And I say kid, we were in middle school, right? Like sixth, seventh, or eighth grade, somewhere in there. Just calling her a witch, and for the longest time, I was like, "Is my mom a witch?" She wasn't. She's been practicing Christian her whole life, but like saying she's a witch, and it's just like the things that we believe and the things that we can be so sensitive to as kids, as impressionable, like me for sure, impressionable, still am, um, and gullible. But like that was always part of it.
Would you go back and do it all again if you could take your knowledge and wisdom?
I sure would. I, you know how people are like, I wouldn't take any of it back because I am who I am today because of that. No, I would sure as hell take the wisdom I have and my wit. I mean, I'd probably get beat up more than I was if that were the case because I'd probably be a smartass to everybody.
I like how your fantasy is all about like destroying everyone.
Well, you know what this is? This is that fight, right? The fight that's in the system that never really got to fight the way it needed to. Also, when did this become a therapy session for me, Ryan?
We're just talking about high school.
No,
I think it would be. I'm sort of the mind of like I'm happy how I turned out and everything led me here, but it would be fun to go back. I feel like I would crush high school, but honestly, I had a really fun time in high school, so that's it's good.
that's
Thank
so good for you and so nice for you.
I probably wouldn't have said that at the time, but it was a pretty decent experience all in all.
I had a better experience when I went to college, a much better experience when I
Oh
went
yeah.
because nobody cared anymore about who I was and where I came, how much money my family, like nobody cared about any of that. And that was when I really started making, like I had some friends in school growing up, but people really didn't care in college. And I was like, oh wait, this feels more like home than school did. But
I was probably the opposite. I think my first couple of years of college were great, and then I kind of went off the rails a bit, and
oh
that did not
really?
end up great. Yeah.
No, college was good for me.
No, I self-destructed towards the end, I think.
Really?
Probably afraid of life or something
Yeah.
like that. But like
It
it
was
went
so
really well for 2 or 3 years, and then it just sort of like, "Bleh, with
you know
that."
what we need to do, Ryan? We need to start telling our life stories on these things.
Oh, yeah?
This
I'll
is
do it.
fun. And it's somehow related back to therapy, right? So our point is
So the point is, we're
the whole
awesome,
point
and you should try to be like us. On that note, we're kind of we're over time a
well,
little
over
bit.
a
You
limit. I probably won't have to
got
cut
anything for next
anything.
time around?
I probably won't have to cut anything from this.
Crazy.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right. You got
All right.
anything for next time?
Mm, let's unpack more trauma.
All right.
Get some of those old fight and flight responses knocked out of.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right.
Brian approves, but also doesn't. Um,
I get to
whatever.
do you, but you can't do me.
What is your idea for next time? What do you want?
I don't have any inspiration currently, but I'll open myself up to the universe over
You
the
might
week.
ask people. Also,
Yeah.
are your coworkers listening?
I don't know.
You really
We'll
are
see.
not attached to any of it.
I just sort of, I think for a while there, I was like teetering on that precipice of like, do I really lean into, I mean, not this, but just like the whole like professional hustle and LinkedIn and trying to kind of utilize those technological platforms to move my career forward. And at some point I said, yeah, forget that. Like, I don't want to do LinkedIn. I was really close to saying, all right, fine. Like I will actively post and elicit engagement. But I just said, nah, that's kind of like that. Like, I don't know if anybody, my current work is listening. At some point
I think at some point
or
I'm
if
just
you,
going to start like posting videos of me cooking like average food and playing with my dogs and it's just
nice.
post whatever and see what happens, but more for me than for anybody else, because I think that's the whole thing is the more we try to live for others, the less we find ourselves. So I'm
It's
gonna
true.
find myself.
Why'd you do a stabbing motion when you said find myself?
Free, free, free.
I did it, Kato. Little stinky.
Stabbing. Little stinky.
I stinky
No,
die.
I told you what my nickname was, right?
Oh, yes, you did. What was it? Kato Potato?
There it is. Destroyed me. Absolutely destroyed me. And then in high school, some girl started calling me Gonzo because she said I had a big nose. But my nose is like maybe above average. It's not like a big nose. But like at that point, I knew that wasn't a read because it wasn't true. And so it never really bothered me. But it's like Gonzo, Gonzo. I'm like, oh, that's not true. Kato Potato is true because
not a gonzo.
Kato Potato is true because this boy bulky.
And you've got eyes.
Yeah,
Potato joke.
Anyway.
All
right,
You're
anything
welcome,
else?
everybody, for that.
Well, thank y'all for hanging out with whatever this is we did today.
Pretty
just
awesome.
Know that we're going to be doing more of this because this is fun. And it's my way to hang out with Ryan.
That's what we do. We talked about a therapy thing, and then we went off on a tangent. That's our brand. Embrace it.
Therapy and trauma. Here we go.
Yay.
All right.
Adios.
Bye, y'all. See you next time.